This screencast should help you answer a question on analogies where you have to identify the components of an analogy. So they're usually worth 3 marks where you have to identify the components, and the importance is that you understand the difference between 1, 2 or 3 marks, and that depends on how you present the components of the analogy. Let's take the analogy. We should reduce ecstasy to a class B drug. In the same way horse riding is legal yet causes death, taking ecstasy should be legal. So first thing you need to do is think about what is basically being compared. If I was to say what the 2 things that are being compared, hopefully you can see that horse riding is being compared with taking ecstasy. So if you said in your answer horse riding is being compared with taking ecstasy, you probably get 1 mark for the basic comparison, but that is not actually what the analogy is about. So you need to find what the similar part of the analogy is. What is it saying that is similar between horse riding and taking ecstasy? And hopefully you can see that it's about the risk of death. So the risk of death from horse riding is the same as the risk of death from taking ecstasy. So the risk of death is the common thing that the analogy has. Then you need to think about, well, what is the conclusion? What is it saying from that comparison? What should we believe to be true? So they're saying because horse riding is legal, then we should make taking ecstasy legal. So they're trying to compare the risks to come to the conclusion that because one is legal and they've got the same risks, the other one should be legal. So what would your answer look like? So you put in the similar part, the risk of death from, and then obviously one of the comparisons is from horse riding, and that's legal, is being compared to the risk of death from taking ecstasy to justify that it should also be legal. So if you can see here, I've used the words from the analogy, but I haven't just repeated the analogy, I've used them to say what the analogy is comparing. So it might also ask you to think about which conclusion it's linking to. So if we look at the same analogy, I've highlighted in green the analogy that we've just analysed. Well, hopefully it should be really clear what the conclusion is that the analogy is trying to get you to accept. We should reduce ecstasy to a class B drug. So the analogy is trying to support the claim, the conclusion, or possibly the intermediate conclusion if it's in one of the paragraphs, so to back it up.